Hey everybody, welcome to Cannonball Sports. We're two college students with a passion for sports. It's snowing right now. We're in Southeast Virginia, so it's kind of weird that it's snowing outside. And also, I'm wearing my Fred Taylor vintage Jaguars jersey today. Got a couple compliments, and I was thinking about it. When I think of Fred Taylor, I think of some of the Florida days and stuff. I'm a big Gators fan. And I was wondering, Zach, who is your favorite college athlete of all time?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Well, maybe from what I've watched, I would. Ooh, just because he was so electric when he was good. Johnny Manziel was so fun to watch. Like when he was doing those crazy things where he would like bobble the ball and throw for touchdowns, and like when he had that crazy play against Alabama when he was like going back 30 yards. And
I think just like the running backwards with him.
Yeah.
Was like every time he did that, it was like crazy.
Johnny Manziel was like super, super exciting to watch as an offensive player, of dominating in terms of like watching like a player dominate. Honestly, like I'm not a huge fan of the guy because I think he's not that great in the NFL as like everyone thought he was going to be. But Jameis Winston, when they won the championship with him at Florida State as a freshman, that was insane. He was just
that
like
whole team was
he at the time he looked like a guy that was like was definitely gonna play on Sunday, and he is. It's just like he's not as good as everyone thought he was going to be. And I mean, like, I know you don't like the guy. Marcus Mariota was really fun to watch at Oregon. I'm naming a bunch of Heisman Trophy winners, by the way. But, like, those are the guys that are cool to watch.
Well, that's
like,
what mine's a Heisman Trophy. I got to go Tim Tebow.
Tim Tebow was really fun to watch, too.
Fan.
Yeah, I really liked watching Tim
Gators
Tebow.
Fan, but I'm a Gators fan. So.
Tim Tebow was really, really fun to watch when he was in college. Man, I don't know. That's hard. I can't narrow it down to one. I just can't. Like, that's a really, really hard question.
All right. What about Georgia? No Georgia
Favorite
guys?
Georgia player of all time?
Yeah.
That's hard. Watching highlights, Herschel Walker for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But if I had to go watching, actually me live watching, Todd Gurley, no question.
Okay.
Yeah, Todd Gurley was super fun.
Those Georgia running backs the last couple of years. Just
yeah,
insane.
you got Swift coming out this year, and you had Sony
Chubb.
Michel and Nick Chubb, Todd Gurley. Yep.
Okay. So that was just kind of like our little intro thing. We're going to kind of get into the show now. Today we're going to talk about Joe Burrow and the controversy surrounding him lately. We're actually going to get into some soccer for the first time in Cannonball sports history. We're going to talk a little bit about Champions League undertakings, and then we're going to go back to what it seems like we're talking about a lot lately, XFL. We're just talking about that a lot lately. We're both kind of into it. So starting off with Joe Burrow. Rumor is he might pull a Eli Manning and say, "Hey, Bengals, don't bother drafting me. I ain't playing there." What do you think, Zach?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a selfish move, but you know what? That's just what he feels like he is in his best interest. I don't think that these college players should have this much power and deciding where they play. I think that's more for free agency, and I think you should play when you're where you're told if you get drafted. But I mean, he has a choice, and if the Bengals do decide to draft him, if he really feels that strongly about it, he can sit out a year and he can pick where he wants to play afterwards, because the Bengals will only own his rights for a year. I think that it's a little bit childish is like a word I would use. He's from Ohio, which just kind of confuses me. I feel like he would want to play for the Bengals. I know the Bengals have had their problems and they're not a great organization, but who knows? He could be the missing puzzle piece. We don't really know. I think that he should play for them if they choose him, but we've seen players do this in the past. You said Eli Manning. I don't know if you remember this too much, but Johnny Manziel actually said that to the Jaguars in his draft. He said, "Don't bother drafting me. I don't want to play for the Jaguars."
I have some recollection of that.
So there was like, I don't know if the Jaguars had their intent on drafting him. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that was the weird thing, because I remember everybody with the Jags was like, "We never said we wanted you."
Yeah,
like,
I just think he wanted to
So.
put that out there and say, like, I don't want to play for the Jaguars. We saw it in hockey with Eric Lindros in the 90s. We saw it with, I think there's some basketball players who've done it as well. Not to the extent that it
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Not to the extent that it is nowadays. I just feel that, like...
Oh, didn't Kobe, yeah.
Kobe didn't want to play for the Hornets. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Kobe didn't want to play for Charlotte. So, I think that, like, it's a little bit of an overreach of such a young player's power. Like, if we were talking about for example, if we were having like a LeBron James situation in terms of like if we just suddenly did like a random redraft for some reason and LeBron was like, oh, I'm not playing for the Dallas Mavericks or something, then that would be like kind of something I can get behind. Or if it was like I feel like I'm going back to basketball mainly because there's more clear distinction of talent in the NBA. Like who's James Wiseman is supposedly might be the first overall pick. Mm-hmm. If James Wiseman was like, oh, I'm not playing for the Orlando Magic.
Or if like Zion last year, because he was the clear number one.
If Zion was like, I'm not playing for the New Orleans Pelicans, like maybe I can kind of get behind that. But for someone in the NFL where you kind of need to, like, you can see NBA talent even in high school. I think a lot of times that's not the case in football, even in college. Like you can't really see it. So I feel like there's a lot less power for NFL players to do that. But Eli Manning did it, and his career worked out for him really well. 2 Super Bowl rings, top 10 in passing yards and touchdowns. So, I mean, like, clearly Eli Manning was correct. Like, he had that kind of talent to do that. But Joe Burrow, I guess we don't know. And I think it's a little bit of an overreach of his power.
Yeah, and it is kind of, like, right now we haven't even, the Bengals have kind of very slightly alluded to picking him, but we don't even know that Joe Burrow is for sure going to go first. I mean,
who knows? They might pick Chase Young.
Yeah, it's the logical view, and it's what everybody's saying. But like the Bengals so far in this haven't really had any say at all. And I do kind of agree with Zack that players shouldn't just say no to a team because it ruins the integrity of the draft. And the whole reason you do the draft is so that the worst teams get better, and there's more of a balance of power in the league, and it's more entertaining for viewers and everything. And so I think ultimately it's kind of ruining the integrity of the draft if Joe Burrow says no. And what's to say, like, next year, like, I don't know who might pick first, but, like, what if the Cardinals pick first and it's like, oh, we can't even get, like, anybody because nobody wants to play here. I'm worried that players might follow in his footsteps.
This could be a dangerous trend.
Yeah, it's basically making the draft irrelevant, and then teams will trade away all their picks, and then it's like, whatever, Patriots end up with the number 1 pick somehow. But, it's just like,
exactly. That'd be so ridiculous.
It's kind of, the integrity of the league is more important than Joe Burrow being happy the first 5 years of his contract, I would say, And, I mean, Joe Burrow has only slightly alluded to possibly even thinking about it.
These are all rumors.
A lot of guys are putting words in a lot of people's mouths in this whole scenario, but it's interesting to talk about just as a concept. So, but yeah, I think that definitely, it is interesting also because Joe Burrow, if he said no to the Bengals, I don't think he would get picked till at least like 3. And the amount of money.
Because I feel like the Redskins aren't going to
aren't going to trade. They want Haskins. And they're going to go probably, well, I guess the Redskins wouldn't be able to get Chase Young, but then they'd probably just go left tackle at 2. I don't think the Redskins would trade out. The Bengals wouldn't trade out. Unless maybe, I don't know, maybe the Bengals would trade out. Actually, they'd probably just go Tua. So you look at the amount of money. I don't know the amount of difference between 1 and 3, but it's probably, I would say, close to $1 million. So Joe Burrow's losing out on $1 million a year just so he can play for a different team the first 5 years of his contract. And he is, like, he's from Ohio, so, like, I really don't see the benefits that heavily for Joe Burrow, especially because even if he hates it, just leave in 5 years.
I get or, like, if it's really, really that bad, you can request a trade. Like, I mean, it could be, I don't, I'm just kind of flustered about it because I just don't understand, like, there's almost no benefits. The only benefit you can get is you might play for a winning team. That's the only benefit.
And that's not play for a winning team. Like, the most he'd fall is to, like, the Lions or the Chargers. I think.
Exactly.
And neither of those organizations are that good either, when they're not as bad as the Bengals.
And the Lions there's a lot up in the air about Stafford. We don't know. But, like, if they keep Stafford, they're not going to pick him.
I've heard, people think the Lions are going to trade out of 3 anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's no need for what they want at 3. They can get it later. Absolutely. So, So unless they decide to deal Stafford, which I think is not going to happen, but a lot of people are thinking that for some reason.
That's kind of still up in the air still.
I don't think that's going to happen. But, I don't know. This is going to be it's going to be interesting to see because, the thing that I'm maybe actually leaning to this being a little bit true is Joe Burrow hasn't come out and said, I didn't say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he also hasn't confirmed anything either. Mm-hmm. But usually when this kind of stuff comes out, you want to say, well, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
He's not saying that.
I saw teams don't even, like, there's, like, some of the rules. Teams can't even talk to players individually till the combine. or something.
Oh, I
like
didn't know that.
So Joe Burrow and the Bengals have not talked face to face at all. I don't think so, unless they did some illegal things.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's true, but not 100% certain. So they haven't even had a one-on-one conversation yet. And you think Joe Burrow did say, I have leverage. And when you think about leverage, he probably just wants to hear a certain amount of things from the Bengals before he is certain, like, I will play there.
Yeah, like he probably wants a guaranteed starting job and money and that kind of
and
thing.
He's going to say, oh, if I come there, you guys, you need to get me a better left tackle or something, because they've had this crappy offensive line. And he's probably going to be like, if I get a good left tackle and you guys can re-sign A.J. Green, I would be more inclined to sign there, things like that.
Things like
it's
that.
It's kind of like common sense that a player with the amount of leverage that he has would probably want to hear some things from the Bengals, or at least these can be empty promises from the Bengals too. They'll be like, yeah, Joe, we'll get you a left tackle. Yeah, we'll go do whatever. We'll get Joe Mixon and we'll get A.J. Green back. And they could not do any of those things, and Joe Burrow's still screwed. Which I guess is an argument in favor of Joe Burrow saying no. But
well, I mean, free agency starts in March.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't see those kind of things, he might say closer to the draft, nope, I don't want to play there.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things up in the air still, of course, like you were saying. And I mean, I think that we are going to get a better idea of if Joe Burrow might do something like this definitely closer to draft night.
I agree.
But
it's going to be interesting to see.
Still, it's an interesting topic. But yeah.
What do you think? You think he's going to pull that or no? I don't think he will.
If you ask me if I had to throw money down right now, I would say no.
I don't think he's going to do that. He also doesn't seem that kind of guy.
It's not a confident no. No,
I know what you mean. No, I'm with you. Just from what I've seen him talk in post-game interviews and his Heisman acceptance speech and stuff like that, he doesn't seem like that kind of guy.
He was really cool.
He doesn't seem like he would pull a fast one on people. Yeah. But who knows?
But it's all about how he sees himself and how he sees his value. And I mean, he did say I have leverage, which is true. And I mean, if he thinks that he's like that guy and he doesn't want to play there, then maybe he won't.
But you're right. Like, where would he want to play?
The alternatives
in the top,
aren't that much
5?
better unless the Patriots are like, oh, Joe Burrow, we'll come get you. We'll trade up to 3, which would be kind of insane. Not totally impossible, but it's kind of like
they'd have to give up a lot.
Yeah,
but
the chances that he goes to a winning team are far less than the chances he goes to
absolutely.
still a bad team.
Yeah, he's not going to go to a much better team than the Cincinnati Bengals.
But, like the Bengals and the Redskins probably have the worst ownership in the league. So the teams that have better ownership are kind of not that far off in the draft. But, I mean, even you look at the other teams that need quarterbacks, the Chargers and the Dolphins. Chargers have bad ownership. Dolphins are a little bit better on that front. Dolphins might do well. So, yeah.
You think the Dolphins have good ownership? They're owned
not
by like
bad ownership.
They're partly owned by Jennifer Lopez, right?
And Derek Jeter.
Wait,
no, that's Miami.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
that's
Miami
the Marlins, right?
Yeah.
They're partly owned by J-Lo owns like 10% of the team. Fun fact.
I mean, that doesn't mean she's a bad owner.
No, I know, but I mean, like, just say, well, they're also
really
owned by a
much.
huge group of owners, so like, she's only part of it. But like,
they got a nice stadium, from what I've heard.
No, nice. All right, that's one positive in their direction. But overall, if I had to put money on it right now, like you said, I would say he's not going to do it. But I mean, who knows? Things could change in a couple months or a couple days, even maybe.
Yeah, and this all kind of stems from Carson Wentz's brother and Carson Wentz.
I think you mean Carson
himself.
Palmer.
Oh yeah, Carson Palmer. My bad. But yeah, Carson Palmer's brother is Joe Burrow's trainer, or like quarterback coach or offseason partner, whatever you want to say. And Carson Palmer himself saying that I didn't have the best time with the Bengals, and they did. When you look at what they did to Carson Palmer was putting together all these great seasons, and the Bengals would keep having cap room, and they wouldn't spend the cap to save money, and they wouldn't get Carson Palmer what he needs to maybe make a playoff run. It's kind of interesting.
And that ended very bitter.
Same thing could happen.
That ended very
Burrow.
bitter. Carson Palmer came out one day and he said, "I will never put on a Bengals uniform ever again." And I was like, "Oh, damn."
I mean, hopefully, if Joe Burrow goes to the Bengals, they can kind of get their stuff in line.
I hope so too.
Kind of put together something that would help him. And right now, you think about the Bengals' weapons. Besides the offensive line, you got Joe Mixon, you got A.J. Green, you got Tyler Boyd. You got John Ross. They got some good weapons over there, I mean, I think he could
defensive
be successful
line ain't
there.
terrible either. Like,
they do have a pretty solid defense.
As like an overall,
and
like
William Jackson at corner. So and I was listening to a Bengals fan on YouTube talking about this whole situation, and he said that when you think about the last decade, Bengals are a pretty solid team besides struggling in the playoffs. Last season was their first really, really awful season.
That's true.
And
I wasn't expecting this out of them. I don't know about you.
If you look at the team at face value, if you look at the roster, they're not an awful team to go to. But if you look at the deeper issues with Cincinnati and the ownership and stuff, it kind of makes sense.
Who's the coach? I honestly forgot.
His name is he was a rookie coach last season. Last season was his first year coaching. I'm totally blanking on
his name. I don't know his name.
Zack Taylor.
Oh, okay. I don't know who that is.
His name is Zack Taylor. Last season was his first year, so.
All right. Well,
maybe they do need to.
Maybe that was.
You
know what?
Scenario.
That might have been part of the kinks. You know what? Just work them out.
I think the main thing was Andy Dalton.
He didn't play half the games. It's not just him because he didn't play
benched.
Well, and then they were still bad after that.
Yeah, but So you kind of look at them and you're like, maybe a good quarterback could get them wins, but it's if they get wins and if they follow up on that success and if they bring back the guys they need to and if they go get new pieces. That kind of that's what I would be saying if I was Joe Burrow in the interview room on the draft combine. Say, we need to get AJ Green. We need to put together some pieces. If we have money, you guys need to get more pieces on defense. We need to get people in Cincinnati that can win us games. And if Zack Taylor sucks, we need a new coach. It's like, it's kind of like what we're talking about right now. And the upsides of the Bengals are probably the same things he's going to be talking about with Cincinnati. So, maybe they need somebody who can kind of like sell them. Somebody who can sell Joe Burrow and somebody on Joe Burrow's team who can sell Cincy that Joe Burrow is an investment,
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens on draft day. By the way, quick quiz question for you. So if Joe Burrow selected first overall in this draft and the Cincinnati Bengals still have that pick, who knows? Maybe they'll trade out for all we know. Who knows? But do you know every single time that if that's the case, every single time that they pick number 1 overall, they've taken a quarterback. Do you know the other 2 quarterbacks that they picked?
Carson Palmer.
Yeah, do you know the other one was?
Oh, I'm thinking of the guy. Oh, was it Andy Dalton?
No, it was Boomer. No. Boomer Esiason.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking of somebody else. Bengals had a huge draft bust in the 90s. I can't remember.
I don't think it was a quarterback, though.
Yeah, I think he was a running back. But, yeah, I can't remember his name.
Well, yeah.
But, yeah.
So every single time they've had the number 1 overall pick, they've taken a quarterback. Let's make it 3 for 3.
I feel like, that's kind of common sense.
No,
I feel like that's the case with most teams.
No, I know, but they don't have it very often.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, I guess they have been around for a while.
No, not too long.
No.
All right.
Okay.
All right, well, we're moving on.
Getting into soccer. Champions League is going on. We're kind of in the next stages. The group stage is done. And it's really interesting right now to watch some of these games in the Champions League because you have some really interesting matchups. Obviously, the best one this last week was Dortmund versus Paris Saint-Germain. And Erling Haaland having a brace against Paris Saint-Germain, Neymar scoring 1 goal. That game, of course, is one that is kind of going to swing Dortmund's form because Dortmund's been kind of shaky the last couple games. And to beat Paris Saint-Germain in that fashion is always really good when you can put together something like that. And Champions League right now is upcoming. You have Barcelona and Napoli on February 25th, and also Bayern and Chelsea.
Ooh, I like that matchup
on February 25th. Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
So you have some really interesting games coming up, and I always hate that all these Champions League games are usually at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Why do you not like that?
That's when we're, as students, I'm usually in class around that time.
I thought they were usually on, but I thought they're usually like I've seen like games and they have what's it called? They have Premier League Saturdays on NBC. That's like a thing.
Yeah, that's Premier League. But for Champions League, usually like league games like German League and like Premier League and stuff, those are usually on weekends.
That's got to be like a time difference
Wednesdays.
thing for the most part.
Yeah. But for Champions League, they're usually like 2 or 3 in the afternoon on either Wednesday or Tuesday.
Wow, that's weird. Okay.
So it's like I'm always in class. So I didn't get to watch any of the games from the 19th or the 18th. So yeah, you had yesterday, the 19th, we're recording this on the 20th, you had Leipzig beating Tottenham 1-0 and Atalanta beating Valencia 4-1. And that's kind of the sort of expected outcomes of both these games, except maybe Atalanta. Valencia has been good in the league this year, but they're kind of been in bad form lately. And then on the 18th, you had the game we were talking about, Dortmund and Paris with the brace, and then Paris only scoring 1. And then you actually had Atletico upsetting Liverpool, which is a big deal because Liverpool won the Champions League last year, and they are far and away the best team in the Premier League this year. I don't know the exact number, but they're ahead in points by like a huge margin to second place. I'll pull it up. But yeah, I don't know if you know, Zack, but like this year Liverpool is
I've heard they're doing quite
by
well.
far crushing everyone else in the Premier League. So it's kind of interesting. I think the only goal in the Atletico game was João Felix, if I remember right. And João Felix is one of the, we were talking about him before the show, he's one of the up and coming players in the league.
Yeah,
he's one of the
about that.
Yeah, he's like one of the best young players in the Spanish league.
Okay,
I can't even pull up who had the goal, but
all right, do not matter. Well, I mean, it does kind of, but whatever.
Wait, I saw a video. Oh no, it wasn't João Felix. My bad. It was Saul. So he's a Mexican player. Which is
okay.
In the Spanish league, but yeah, in the Premier League right now, Liverpool is ahead by 46 points.
What?
Wait, no, that's the goal differential. Okay. My bad. They're ahead by 22 points,
which
is still
a ton. Yeah.
Manchester City following them with 54 points. So 76 to 54 points.
Out of curiosity, who's last?
Oh, okay, so teams in relegation right now.
Oh, relegation.
Would be
Okay, without
Norwich City, Watford, and West Ham, which is kind of what you expected. The big surprises in the Premier League are Leicester, who actually they won the league in 2015, 2016, which is interesting because, I mean, it's always been there's a top six in the Premier League of Tottenham, Man City, Man U. Tottenham, Man City, Man U, Liverpool, and then who else? Arsenal, and one other team. But those teams have won the league the last, I think, 10 years, except for Leicester.
Was that the year that Leicester was like 5,000 to 1 odds or something?
It was, they had horrible odds. They were expected to be like,
I thought they were expected to be relegated. That's what someone told me, and they were like...
That was the year before that, they were almost relegated.
Yeah.
So, but they did make some upgrades.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then, so they're in third right now, which is interesting. Chelsea in fourth, they're kind of performing pretty well, too. And then you have Sheffield United in sixth, which is really interesting because they just got promoted, I think, last year or 2 years ago.
Oh, cool.
So they just got into the Premier League, and they're already in sixth, which kind of shows you how crazy the Premier League is this year. And there's a whole argument in the Premier League whether soccer is boring because, you look at Liverpool, who's so far ahead, you pretty much know how this year is going to shake out. It's kind of like the argument is right now, is the Premier League boring, and should people, because people in England are really committed to the Premier League, so it's kind of like, would I have more fun if I was watching the German league, who has a ton of teams really close to the top? I think in the German league there are 6 teams that could all finish like first.
Okay.
And then
well, I mean, that just could be for this year.
It is more of a this year thing. But yeah, that's kind of what people are debating, and the Spanish league has been kind of interesting this year too. But yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much all we have on soccer. We just kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's the first time we've talked about it. So,
and I watch Bundesliga more than anything else, and right now Bayern Munich is ahead by 1 point of RB Leipzig, and then Borussia Dortmund is 4 points behind Bayern, and Mönchengladbach is also 4 points behind Bayern. So you kind of see how close the Bundesliga is in comparison to the Premier League. So yeah, but also, what else is happening in soccer? Manchester City cannot play in the Champions League for the next 2 years.
Oh, yep. What was the reason for their ban?
They did a bunch of illegal financial things.
Okay.
So, no, I don't think they've said, like, what exactly they did. I don't think they're allowed to or something like that. But basically, they just broke a bunch of money rules, and they got a pretty strict ban for that. And actually, I was talking to Brandon, and he was like, "Oh, so like the opposite of the MLB." And I was like,
"Yeah,
pretty much."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was saying we should have talked about, I guess, Rob Manfred being an idiot.
Yeah, I heard people were being dumb.
Yeah, he's just Rob Manfred. I guess we're gonna kind of convert to this really quick, but Rob Manfred basically said that he's gonna give all these people immunity, even though they basically cheated the World Series, and then the next day, they found evidence that the Astros did cheat in the playoffs.
I thought that already was like.
I think that was like, they found that on like Wednesday, I think.
I thought that like was like already a thing. Like
no, that they just found evidence that they cheated in the playoffs.
This past.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant just for the whole like thing. I was like, I thought that was already covered.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But the thing that they said that they wouldn't do anything that strict because they couldn't find evidence of the buzzers,
Well, okay. So, like,
And-
if you find specific players that have done something, I think that you should punish them. But I feel like they can't.
I think they should be
certain-
punished to the maximum extent, but that's not what's going to happen. You know,
I,
it's like,
you know what I mean? Like, is some of it like there could be like evidence against certain players, but there's probably only speculation with some. So, I mean, you can't, like, for example, I'm trying to think of someone on the team that probably didn't do anything or knew about it, but just like didn't actually like Brian McCann. I don't know if he did anything.
Yeah.
But like that's just an example of a guy on the team. Like who knows? Like I haven't heard anything specific about Brian McCann. You can't punish Brian McCann for just that. Like like you can punish Correa for sure in my opinion.
and
That's pretty much one of the few players I think you can be like, like Correa.
probably Altuve, I would say.
Altuve's a little bit 50-50 for me.
Well, Altuve is the main guy that they're thinking is the buzzer guy.
Okay.
So that's one thing. And, you know, it's like, I haven't really researched all of this, but they're finding certain things about certain players, and they're talking to former Astros, and they're granting people immunity and all these weird things. And Rob Manfred is just giving speeches every day showing how much of an idiot he is. I used to think he was a good commissioner.
He is a good
we
commissioner.
did
I
talk
think
about
up
it.
until this, he was a great commissioner.
But he called, in his most recent speech, he said that the commissioner's trophy was a piece of metal.
Yeah, okay. He came out and said that's not what I meant. You know, like,
but you know, either way, for those words to come out of your mouth, you're basically ruining the sanctity of the entire league.
No, I understand.
So it's like,
don't get me wrong. I think he's like, the thing I like about Rob Manfred is that I think he's a very progressive commissioner. I think he's speeding up the game and overall, I like,
kind of.
If you take out,
They are trying things.
Yes.
I will give them credit for that.
If you take out,
but
just
they're not
this
always working
blunder,
how they think they're working.
If you take out this blunder, he's a really good commissioner.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like, I know,
But I saw-
it's hard to not judge someone off the most recent. Like, it's kind of a recency bias thing. Like, it's really hard to not judge him really poorly.
I was
off
listening
of this,
to
but, like,
something, and they were saying that when he came in, his 3 goals were to speed up pace of play, and pace of play is actually like slowed down by like a third of a second or something. It's like there was basically no difference. So he didn't speed up pace of play. His other goal was youth outreach, which they always have commercials and stuff, but I'm reading that like the average age of the baseball viewer is now like 46 or something.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, which it was always never that high, but, you know, it's kind of like what's going on.
All right.
And his third one was more technology use, and I don't think anybody wants that who's a true baseball fan. So, you know, and the technology thing is what the Astros used to cheat.
Yeah.
So it's like what his goals were and what he's achieving are not good, but I think overall he's good for baseball.
Yeah,
but
I like him. He's like
now,
besides right now, he's a very
like
likable guy.
Yeah.
Like he's not. Yeah.
It's just kind of, I think the handling of this situation is probably the worst any cheating thing has been handled in almost any league.
I agree.
You know,
real quick, robotic umps.
Hell no.
Thank you. You're like the only other person.
No.
Brandon wants them. Yes, he does.
Brandon does?
Yeah, I thought Brandon said he wouldn't mind. You want to know why? It's because
most baseball fans I know don't want it.
I think that I was talking to Brandon. I think it was maybe because there's the heat of the World Series, but when the Nats lost 3 games in a row, he blamed it on like the umps behind the plate, and he was like, "Well, now I want it." Like
the whole thing about baseball is there is a human element to it. I mean, it's an
old
old game. It's the oldest game like in America almost. I mean, it was invented in America. It's old 1770s. I think it goes all the way back to. And there needs to be human elements in baseball because it's part of like what makes it baseball.
Like, and that's the thing. And like, I know that some umps behind the plate are not, but like, I didn't see a lot of complaining from you and Brandon and Jay when we were watching the World Series at their place.
I mean, I would take
because Game 6 and 7, they made those guys behind the plate on purpose because Jim Wolf was the guy behind plate during Game 7, and he is literally the best behind the plate ump, balls to strikes ratio guy. Like, he's literally the best at it.
You want consistency.
Yeah,
and I think that's what most fans want.
I agree.
If you have a guy who's all over the place, and it's not great calls,
I don't know
then
if you
bad. And most umps are consistent.
If you like this, but I don't mind if they call strikes a little outside, as long as they consistently call strikes a little outside or inside or high or low,
if they're
or whatever.
doing it for both teams and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it is a robot, then like I just feel like there needs to be an element of randomness to the game,
agree.
which makes it interesting. And part of baseball's problem is
you see just people getting pissed off at the robot though?
Yeah, because like also like robots can probably be calibrated wrong and things like that.
Exactly. There's gonna be a human element no matter
how
what.
How is the robot gonna know that Altuve is shorter than Aaron Judge?
That's also something.
It's kind of like I don't really think it's even feasible right now, even though I think like some minor league baseball team
They're going to
league
try
is
it in
using
spring training.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
The MLB is.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I guess maybe technology is better than I think it is, but I really don't think that it would be good for baseball. From maybe from a player perspective, it could be good, but not a fan perspective.
I think I like having a guy behind the, and also, how are they going to call people out at the plate?
The voice would come down from the speakers and say, "You're out." I don't know.
See, that's my point. Like,
I guess the robot probably talks, or maybe like
do you still have a home? Do you still have an home plate umpire though? But they just don't call strikes and balls.
Yeah.
Like
maybe he stands behind him, because I guess you would need somebody there to call out base runners and everything like that.
Yeah, and like call people over to the plate and stuff like that.
And
like you can't have a robot.
He'd probably be keeping count, and
he would probably do batting lineups and stuff.
They would probably have a guy back there in case the robot malfunctions also.
And they have to have, and they also have to have the ump has to throw the catcher's balls and give them to the pitcher. They have to still have.
There has to be a guy behind the plate.
Yeah,
but also, are the robots like big? Like, what if?
I think it's
what
just
if there's
like
a play at the plate?
I think it's just like a camera, like that's in the back. I don't know how it works at all.
Neither do I.
I
but
don't.
If it's like a big thing, if it's like a big metal box, what happens if there's a play at the plate? Somebody like runs into the box or something. I don't know, or like a pitcher or catcher's going for a pop up.
I think it's something that's like behind home plate, like in terms of like almost in like the crowd, like, and I think it's cameras.
That makes sense.
And stuff, and this is total me because I remember seeing photos.
I mean, that's illogical.
I've seen video of it in the minor leagues, that what you're talking about, and they have been doing it, but it like looks really. But I don't remember if there's like still an ump. There's still an ump behind first plate.
I mean, I guess that would be what makes sense.
It just seems like a lot of work for like. And no one's like losing a job or anything. There still has to be a home plate umpire. So like,
I guess nobody would lose a job. But how does it read like up and down calls?
That's what I'm like. You
would have to have something in the ground, right?
You would think, yeah. What you brought up, I didn't even think about in terms of
like Aaron Judge has a bigger strike zone than a shorter
strike
player.
Zones. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Like, does there have to be a home plate umpire to like calibrate height and weight for it and stuff? Like, and how much they might slouch
like
in the box?
The home plate umpire has to type in like a iPhone, like, hey, how tall are you again? Oh, you're 6 foot. All right, 6 foot.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
See, like, because that would be insane.
Funny.
Because what if they don't do that, or the machine doesn't calibrate it right, and then Aaron Judge is up to bat, but he has the strike zone of Altuve.
Walks every time.
He gets walked every time.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know how it works.
There's a lot of things.
We didn't expect to talk about this today, so like we didn't do any research on it at all. This is all a free ball at it, to be honest with you.
Me and Zack are both not in favor of that, though.
I'm not. I don't like it. I've heard some people like it. I think someone wants it in our friend group. I'm pretty sure it was Brandon, but I think it was just for like 3 days, and then I don't know if he's off of it now.
So,
but I don't know. Yeah, I'm not about it. But are we done with soccer and baseball now?
Yeah, I think we're good with soccer and baseball. So,
all right.
Moving on to our last thing, we're gonna cover some XFL. So week 2, also with week 2, I saw that actually attendance numbers are better.
Good.
Which is good for the league. And I did see Seattle had like crazy attendance, but DC, who had a second game, their attendance was down like a couple thousand. So you see this was basically Seattle's first home game, and this was DC's second home game. And DC had a numbers drop, but Seattle sold a huge crowd.
Do they play in CenturyLink?
They kind of made up, yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So,
all right.
The Seattle Dragons made up for DC Defenders' poor attendance. So hopefully the attendance numbers in this league can be good, even for teams that are playing their second or third home game, because that's going to be important for the success of the league.
I agree. I think that's good.
And so starting with that, the quality of play this week was a lot worse.
I did notice that from the little bit that I did watch.
Sorry, excuse me. You saw a difference with the quarterbacks this week. Many not playing so great. I don't know what's going on with me, but many quarterbacks this week were not playing as well as they should be. Even guys like Landry Jones, who were supposed to be like the big superstars of the league, were just playing okay. Matt McGloin got benched in New York when he had a great game last week, and then their backup came in and he was not so hot. The Tampa Bay Vipers didn't start Aaron Murray, and that guy was kind of Quentin Flowers, I think his name is. He was kind of And it's just kind of, you really want to see the teams that are fun to watch have good quarterback play, and those teams are the Houston Roughnecks and the DC Defenders. Houston's quarterback is PJ Walker. He's really a mobile guy. He was a backup for the Colts before getting into the XFL. He can scramble. He's almost like the XFL Lamar Jackson. I know it's a bold comparison, but compared to the guys he's playing against, he almost looks like Lamar Jackson. He can do those cool kind of sidearm throws that Patrick Mahomes does. He can move around in the pocket, and he's just really good at getting the ball out and keeping the Houston offense
You're
moving.
making a lot of high comparisons right now. I'm just
well, if you look at PJ Walker against XFL defenders, he looks almost like Lamar Jackson against NFL defenders. But yeah. And then Cardale Jones, who's also kind of mobile, a big guy, he just looks good. I think he could be like an NFL backup. And same with PJ Walker. PJ Walker could probably start for some teams.
Wow.
If he plays,
that's a very bold
if he
statement.
plays like he's playing in the XFL and the NFL. But yeah.
Maybe he can. I don't know. I haven't watched any of that guy, PJ Walker. Not a single second.
Yeah. Houston usually plays like the early Saturday game. So
okay. Well, I'm not awake then, probably.
Yeah.
But I have watched Cardale Jones in 2 games. Looks pretty good.
So
he's probably. My thought was he was going to be one of the better quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So
From Zach's perspective, he just called Cardale Jones pretty good. And Cardale Jones, if you watch compared to all the other XFL guys, he looks great.
yeah.
So Zach, as a Zach as sort of a more casual viewer, sees Cardale Jones.
I have only
as,
seen Cardale Jones
Yeah.
and 2 other quarterbacks. I have not watched any other game
so,
besides the DC Defenders.
Yeah, but if you just think Cardale Jones is pretty good, Cardale Jones is probably the best or second best behind PJ Walker.
Okay.
So, I'm just saying,
I understand.
if you were to watch like Seattle and Tampa, their quarterbacks are bad. So it's like, no.
I did watch Seattle because they played Seattle.
Yeah,
their
Brandon
quarterback
Silvers
was not good.
Was not very good.
No, he's not great.
Quentin Flowers is, we've only seen one game from him, but he looked kind of shaky.
Yeah.
So I think the clear best teams in the league now are Dallas and DC.
He says Houston.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Houston and DC. And those are the teams that have the best quarterbacks. So when you, think about the league, they need good quarterback play to be
like
consistent.
the NFL.
Yeah. And if both these quarterbacks leave for the NFL, what is the XFL going to be?
Well, it's possible that you never know. I'm assuming some of these guys on other teams are young and maybe right out of college. Maybe they'll develop into something better than they are now.
That argument is one that I've seen that's interesting because there are guys, the rule that I heard from the NFL is you have to be out of high school for 3 years. And apparently it doesn't matter where you play. So people are thinking that the XFL could become an alternative to college football.
Oh.
And you can make money. So if you have guys coming straight out of high school that are good quarterbacks, good football players going to the XFL,
they could boycott college.
And the NCAA obviously is not great. Except now they're taking steps towards paying players in certain states. But if you look at maybe the key for the XFL to be successful in the long run is to be an alternative to college football and to have good quarterback play and good everything play coming from guys straight out of high school, which is an angle that I think would be interesting, very interesting to see. There is one guy actually doing that right now. On the St. Louis Battlehawks, they have a corner that was at West Virginia, and he got suspended, and he said, screw that, I'm not playing JUCO, I'm going to go play in the XFL. So now, and he's one of the better players in the league, period. And he was an all Big 12 player at West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And so when you look at that guy's already being successful, what if they got more guys like that or guys that got kicked off NFL squads playing in the XFL?
It's certainly possible.
It would be
think about it like this. I'm not saying that he should do it or he will do it, but imagine if from the XFL that we used to kind of know when it was only existing for a year. What if Vontez Perfect went to the XFL or something like that?
Guys that are suspended, or Josh Gordon is one name I've heard a lot.
Or maybe he isn't interested anymore, but Ray Rice or something maybe if he still wants to play.
And I have heard people have said Antonio Brown, but he already tweeted no,
I can't even fathom that.
He tweeted
honestly.
that he's not going to play in the XFL.
Yeah,
but it's kind of you look at ways that the XFL could be more successful, and I think the key is to get those suspended guys from college and the NFL and kids that are coming out of high school Like I know that there's a recruit right now that's like a 5-star running back, and he still hasn't picked his team. I think his name is Zack Evans or something. What if like the defenders were like, we'll give you $1 million to come play here? You know, I mean, I'd probably do that coming out of high school.
It would be hard. It'd be very tempting to do so.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think if that is allowed, if you can still get, like I've heard that the guy on the Battlehawks is going to be in the draft in April. The only thing is the XFL season lasts past April. So
interesting.
that creates a different dynamic because guys could be getting drafted off your team. And that could even happen this season with the guy in St. Louis. But rumor is that he might go late round or go undrafted.
So if they wanted to, for example, there's a guy that was undrafted in the NFL and he's never played a down in the NFL. He wasn't on any practice squad, nothing or anything. Can he play in the XFL for a year and enter a new draft class? And maybe
I think
get
you have
drafted
to be
in
a
this
certain
April.
age to be in the draft class.
Well, I mean, Brandon Whedon was in it when he was like 30.
You're right.
So
I suppose, yeah.
Like so, but he entered a draft, but he went undrafted. He didn't do anything. Like that's my thing. Can you enter in another draft? That's what I'm wondering.
I guess you could, yeah.
I don't know the rules.
Weird. Yeah, I don't really know.
But like you see guys like, for example, like Victor Cruz. Like Victor Cruz got lucky enough to be undrafted. Not lucky enough. A guy was unluckily undrafted, but then he got on a training camp and stuff. What if Victor Cruz entered a draft, went completely undrafted, and didn't join any like squads, and then he went to the XFL? Would he be allowed to go into like the 20 draft?
I think once you do it once, I think when you do it once, you can't do it again.
Okay, so then you would have to just play really well in the XFL and hopefully join a squad.
Yeah.
Like you can't get redrafted.
Yeah,
like, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think you can only enter the draft one time.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure.
All right, so he can't. So you. That's what I'm wondering is like there's someone in this past draft that just didn't get drafted. And
I don't think like Cardell Jones could be drafted.
And Cardell Jones did get drafted.
Oh yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, I don't think. Yeah, if there's like an XFL guy that went undrafted, I don't think he could get drafted like this
again.
April.
Yeah, like so, or like go through the draft process again.
Also, I don't think anybody in the league would want to do that because like, why would you want a 25-year-old from the XFL when you could go get like a player from college? You know.
Yeah, I mean that's just my point. I'm just wondering if you're allowed to do that.
I think it could. I don't think there would be a situation where there'd be enough demand for an XFL guy to want to do that.
All right.
If that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But definitely interesting routes to see what the XFL might do. But I think that would be their best case would be to try to appeal to high school players.
Is there an XFL draft?
Yeah. I don't. Well, there was to start the league. I don't know if they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, so
that's
like,
a good question.
What about like college? Like, so like my thing is like, what if you? Get
I don't
drafted?
think the XFL is drafting college players.
Okay, for example, though, what your solution is with you're thinking of with high school players, like. Then if they draft them in high school, but like, what if they go to college? Do they still own their draft rights? What happens there? I guess you have to declare.
The circumstance would be you'd have to declare for an XFL draft.
Well, I mean, people don't declare in the MLB draft. We've seen Johnny Manziel and Russell Wilson get drafted, and they just get drafted. So
I mean, maybe, I guess they could do that. But like, if you're like, if you're some like Alabama commit already, and you're like, I don't know, Seattle Dragons drafted me. Would I go play for Alabama or would I go play for Seattle?
Yeah, like
I guess that's a good question.
Yeah, like what if you just get drafted? Like you don't declare for it or anything.
I mean, maybe I guess you could do that.
Just
but
like,
I don't see
sorry, Bama, I want to make money.
I don't see these 5-star guys who are already committed to a school going to.
I don't see a lot of people changing their minds either. I'm just saying like, my thing is you're right. So not this upcoming recruitment class, but maybe the next one. 5-star guy has like full rides to Bama, Georgia, Clemson, and all these kind of really like LSU and Florida State and all this stuff.
Yeah.
What if they're just like they have all of these things and then the XFL drafts them number 1 overall and they say, hey, we'll give you a 3-year, $6 million contract. You get to make $2 million.
That would be best case for the XFL if they could pull off something like that. But I think,
in my opinion,
I think it's going to be a slower course of action.
I agree, but like in my opinion, if that happens, if it was me, I would have a very hard time passing up $6 million and going to play to college and making almost no money.
Well, if you think about it, the amount of promotion you're going to get playing at Alabama versus playing with the Dallas Renegades.
Okay,
you're probably going to get scouted more for an NFL draft playing for Alabama or Florida or Georgia than you would be playing for the XFL.
I agree with you.
I would think.
No, I think you're right.
I think it would be smart for the XFL to try to get some of those guys like that. And if a player gets drafted out of the XFL, what's to stop more 5 stars from going into the XFL? You know,
exactly. Like I just think you know what, it's kind of like a ripple effect. It might take one to do that, and then other people might just follow in their footsteps.
But the XFL needs to be cool with letting guys go. You know, that's thing.
Also
they
true.
Didn't do
they
that.
They have to be cool with.
They
letting
didn't do that
go.
in the NFL but multiple players tried to sign out of the XFL into the NFL. Landry Jones and Josh Johnson both almost got signed to NFL teams, but the XFL wouldn't let them sign. So the XFL and these high school recruits and the NFL need to all work together to try to make the XFL more popular. But I don't even think nobody really cares about the XFL. Well, they care, but like if you're the NFL, you don't care where you're getting the guys from. You know,
I agree.
If that makes sense.
So but you're also right. The XFL has to be kind of chill with like they have to understand that
they are sort of a stepping stone.
Guys that might want to make more money than a little bit. Like I mean, $2 million isn't a little bit of money.
And that's what's kind of it's gonna be interesting to see guys like PJ Walker and Cardell Jones that might join NFL squads this offseason. If the XFL, I don't know what their contracts are.
You have if their contracts are up, like I mean, they can't not let them go if their contracts are up, right? Yeah. Like you would think, but like I feel like you give like a high school kid like a 3-year contract, then you've got him for 3 years, and if he wants to leave, he can leave.
But like what if you're a 5-star recruit and you already said like, oh, Alabama, no, I'm gonna go to the XFL, and then the XFL's like, sign this 5-year deal. And you're like, I don't want to. Yeah. And then they're like, you gotta. Or else we won't sign you. We won't sign you to anything less than 4 years. You're like, but I want to go play for the Browns. It's like, you can't.
I guess it would depend on each squad, like in the XFL. Like if they maybe if it's like some insane guy, like I'm talking like a Joe Burrow, like kind of like splash player that would be really, really good in the XFL. And it doesn't matter if it's 3 years for them because they would get so much money and exposure from just having him that maybe they won't care if he goes in 3 years. Yeah. Like I feel like it's a very big case by case basis. Like
this guy I'm talking about, Zack Evans. He just visited Florida yesterday. If Zack Evans and the Tampa Bay Vipers sign a contract, it's kind of like, would Zack Evans be able to get drafted when he's done? Would he get playing time with the Vipers? There's so many like questions, that like I feel like if the XFL is smart, they'll get together, like they'll get all the teams together and everything, and they'll be like, okay, here's our plan for high school guys. You need to sign them to 3 deals. You need to sign them to 3-year deals. Like that's the maximum. It'd be kind of cool. They need to make a system for getting these high school guys in and getting them into the NFL, even though that in the long run hurts the league. Well, it hurts and it helps the league because you're going to lose that guy eventually. But while he's with your team, it's going to be interesting to watch him, Cause,
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, because like if you can get like Tua, Joe Burrow level players in the XFL, that's more competition with the NCAA.
It also could help you a lot in this regard because what if for 3 years like he's really, really good for the XFL, but a lot of NFL people don't think he's NFL quality. So then he might go to the draft, get undrafted, not make a squad, and then he might come back and then
that's what people
consistently make $2 or $3 million a year and still want to play in the XFL and make money and give you all exposure. Like,
and that was a thing that I was seeing with like people were talking about with like Josh Johnson. If he wanted to play in the NFL, he could. And if he doesn't do well in the NFL, he can just come back.
Exactly.
Because they're always going to be welcome in the XFL because they showed that they're good players in the XFL. So, my leg just cramped.
Okay. I agree with you. I think that's a really good. I think it just makes sense to me.
If I'm the XFL, I'm getting a plan together to get high school guys. That's what I'd be doing.
That's what I'd be doing too. And I think Vince McMahon, the guy, he just the owner? Is he the commissioner? Like,
he's the owner, but this time around, they said that this is a big thing that he's doing that they think is going to eventually help the league. All he's doing is funding the league. He's hands off this time. So he's not going to, like, with the first XFL, he was, like, at the opening game, and he was, like, yelling in the mic and stuff. And everybody's like, why? And this time around, they said that all he's doing is giving money to the league. So it's his investment, ultimately, but he is not totally impactful in the league. So
who's the commissioner?
Is it Oliver Luck. Andrew Luck's dead.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he worked with the AAF, and he worked with the NCAA. And so I don't know if his term is commissioner, but he's basically the football guy.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he'll come with an idea to get high school people. Okay. Hey, what if Andrew Luck plays in the XFL? I really doubt it, but that'd be pretty cool if he did. But
okay, so
coach, maybe, who knows?
Yeah, XFL, hire us to your marketing squad.
Yeah, come on, we got
like
you.
That. We got ideas. All right, so I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. Follow us on Twitter, please. Twitter.com/CannonballWCNU.
We are no longer on SoundCloud, everybody.
We're done with SoundCloud. This is only for YouTube. Shout out YouTube listeners. Shout out new subscribers. I think Matt subscribed. The GOAT.
Yeah.
If he's listening. But yeah.
Tell your friends. Tell your mom. Tell your mom's friends.
Give us feedback.
Tell your friend's mom.
Tweet at us. Tweet questions. I put out a tweet asking for questions. Nobody replied.
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed. Even though we didn't do an episode that day. But
Joey be hurting.
Reply to my tweets. Like my tweets.
Yeah, I don't do anything with that. It's all Joey.
All right. Thanks for listening, y'all. Peace.
All right. Good night.